Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's study hall. This is Aged Boomer, and I am here with Troy Pacelli.
Hey, everyone.
Okay, and you're not asking me what I'm sipping.
What are you sipping on?
I have a Coke here, and I realize I should have opened this before getting on air.
Nope, you want to open it on
I
air so
open
we can
right
all hear
next
it go
to the mic.
snap.
Okay.
That's a Professor Geek. There you go.
Okay. All right, and we do have Nanette, or better known as Netter. We're going to be having her do one of the topics this week. We're going to start with one topic, and then she's going to skedaddle on out of here. But if you want to say hi, Nanette.
Hi guys, how you doing tonight? It's like I'm actually happy to be here. Just a chance to talk about something that my husband told me the topics. I'm like, can I talk about that one? Because yeah,
she's steaming a little bit.
No, I don't have a ton to talk about it with. I don't have a ton to talk about it on, but my feelings on it are very strong.
Okay, we'll be starting that in a minute. I just want to say hi to some people in the chat here. Hello, Melissa. Hello, Brian Gilmartin. Let me see. Casey Scott. Always a pleasure. Brian, and I already said Brian Gilmartin. Daniel Heron, thanks for showing up. Joshua V. I don't know. Have you been here before? Has he been here before? I don't know. If you haven't,
I've seen the name around in the
maybe I don't know if it's on this
community, but
it might have been my stream or a different stream. Welcome. Okay. And the first topic we're going to go over tonight is Disney layoffs.
God.
Right. I'll read my notes here. 28,000 U.S. employees, some at Walt Disney World. I believe a lot of them were at Disneyland. This is my suspicion, but we don't have the full numbers because they're not giving up that information. California has not lifted restrictions allowing Disneyland to open. Disney did not provide a breakdown between the parks. Yeah, no notice of mass layoffs has been filed in Florida, so I don't know if that means that they're just waiting to file that. I don't know. Okay. And 67% are part-time. Josh D'Amaro, chairman of Disney Parks, he sounded like he was saying that this was the last option, that they had furloughed workers for a little while with pay, but then I guess with the park staying closed. So they had to finally start letting people go. But anyone here have an opinion on that?
Well, for me, it really hits close to home because Troy and I lost our jobs back in April. So hearing about all these mass layoffs it just kills me. Mm-hmm. It's like, is there nothing they can do to maybe put them in a different role, have them doing something to keep them employed? Because all these people losing their jobs, I mean, just me and Troy were affected for our household, but can you imagine all these households that are going to be affected because all these people, even part-timers, they rely on that money, and unemployment does nothing. I mean, we've gotten a couple of extra bucks here and there from unemployment when they decided to, dole out a little bit extra, but that's coming to an end. And if you don't get in at the right time, you're not going to get that money. So I just feel so horrible for all these people being let go. It's like, there should be something they can do. But then on the other hand, I'm a Disney stockholder, and I expect Disney to be making good movies and giving me something back as being a stockholder. And then they put out something like Mulan. No, you don't thank concentration camps for letting you film there. You don't alienate people. You don't, they managed to alienate an entire country. It's like, how is this giving me my dividends? And is this why all these people are being laid off? Because you are foolish in how you are, putting movies together and just in general, managing how you are using the funds at your disposal? Just saying.
Yeah, and I don't want to come off like we're stealing someone else's shtick. I don't want anyone to accuse us of doing a neon and geeky sparkles thing. But Netter and I are, stockholders in Disney. And so we do kind of follow that business end of things. So I guess one could argue, well, they're trying to lower their profile and have a higher profit margin for the stockholders. Okay, fine. But, this is short-term stuff. We've all been in the business world in some way, shape, or form. We know how these things go. Your first year, you've effed up. So you cut people to to make your bottom line look better, that only works your first year. You need to fix the problems. This isn't fixing the problems. This is rearranging the cookies on the plate to make it look like more, and then she brings up Mulan. We talked about that last week. You want to talk about what ABC is just, well, Disney owned ABC is doing right now with setting inclusion guidelines to amplify underrepresented groups on TV. In other words, checklists, affirmative action on TV. This is what's important to you when you're hemorrhaging money. Really? I don't know. Yeah, I'm a little hot about this myself.
Now, I have a question.
You don't make bad movies. You make good movies. You get good people in roles. You don't just throw something together and say, yes, this will work.
Organic diversity,
Do you think there's a management crisis over there that you have all these people doing their own thing, like Kathleen Kennedy?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not going to even get, at least on this topic, I'm not going to get specific about the who's, but I think in general, absolutely. If a business isn't doing well, okay, you look at the management. They're the ones that are making the big bucks. They make the big bucks for a reason. You can moan and complain, oh, they make millions of dollars. Do they really deserve it? Well, if they don't deserve it, they need to lose their job just like anyone else. The reason they make those bucks is because they make the decisions. They can't then turn around later on and say, well, it wasn't us. It was the fans. It was the this. It was the CV. It was no. You made choices. It's your job to manage all those problems you're pointing out. If you can't handle it, we'll get rid of you and we'll put in somebody who can handle it. Bye.
Exactly.
It's that simple. So I don't care if it's Kathleen Kennedy for Star Wars or if it's someone above her at Disney, whoever the head of ABC is.
I mean, they do that. Looking at that. And they do that in all companies. Somebody's not working out, they replace them. You see the news all the time. The CEO or this executive, whatever, was terminated, and now so-and-so is taking their place because they couldn't, they made decisions that they then couldn't back up. They couldn't go forward with them. So they need somebody to come in and fix their mistakes.
Yeah. I see, Brian, you put up Brian Gilmartin's comment. It applies directly here, and we touched on this last week. If you're going to go catering to China, that's fine, but you might want to think about that, okay? You can't serve two masters. If you're going to serve China, serve China. If you're going to serve the U.S., serve the U.S. But if you try to serve both, you're going to end up effing yourself. And China, look at history. If you want to know what's going to happen in the future, look at history. And if you look at China, you need to look at the Soviet Union. If, 30 years ago, you would set up Hollywood to cater to the Soviet Union, where would you be right now? Well, that's what you're doing with China right now.
Well, my big issue with Hollywood and China, too, isn't so much the fact that Hollywood changes the movies for China that they send over there, but they'll let China influence what we watch.
Right.
That was another issue I had. I know that was a big controversy with this wasn't Disney, but this was the Top Gun movie, where the guy had Tom Cruise had a Taiwan patch on the back of his jacket, and they said, nope, remove that,
So it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about it just as I was even saying this. Back in the 80s, we had a lot of Cold War type movies. I think of like Rocky IV, for example. And I know that a lot of these movies had different endings when they were shown in Russia. So I don't really have a problem with that. I don't care. Make it multiple endings. That's fine. But if you're going to make your choice and make one movie and you're going to cater to China, then frickin' market it in China. I'm not going to see your movie.
I can't get over what you just told me. Rocky IV has a different ending.
That's what I was told. I've never lived in Russia, so I don't know.
I need to see if that's on the Blu-ray. Okay. Anyway, but
that's what I was told, and I've heard that some other movies were edited slightly to soften them for the Russian market. I understand that. That makes sense.
I always used to make a point that Rocky IV ended the Cold War, but that might be a topic for another time.
I am open to that too.
We're going to go off another direction. I'll save that for another time.
Because it definitely did have that kind of positive You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
w-
yeah.
we can fight and we can have a rival. And I think during the 80s, that was very much the spirit too, right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
there was a lot of talk about, the scientists working together, the whole Soyuz thing and whatnot,
Right,
and
right.
how much we could do if we worked together. And it kind of did. And then you have Glasnost and you have all of that. Um, so I would support you in that argument. That's
Oh,
true, but that is absolutely not what's happening with China right now. It's just the opposite.
it's the
It's a
opposite.
problem.
We're and Casey Scott has a comment. And they just reinstated the higher full pay at Disney after cutting so many jobs. Yeah,
Good
I don't know if you
point.
hear anything about. Yeah, that's
That
I hadn't seen
that
that,
stuff makes
but
me crazy.
yeah. So in
Why
other
are
words,
you
you're
paying all the
rewarding
executives
failure.
so much money when you're foundering? Yeah, you're floundering, but you're
Yeah.
giving these people all this money. It's like, why don't you use that extra money to help your business?
wasn't someone from the Disney family complaining about all this too. Was it the niece or the niece of Walt Disney,
It
or,
it it,
or what it was?
it could be.
It was.
The
I should
problem
look
is
that up.
though
Yeah,
that what happens is it is now publicly, we own stock, so we have
right.
say in it, and everyone who owns stock in it has say in it. But the problem is that's when you have all of that, all those people that own stock. It's so diffused where the power is that the people sitting at the boardrooms, it becomes very corrupt, very, excuse the term, incestuous, kind of like Congress, to be honest with you. We the people send people, elect congressmen and send them to Washington, and then they do whatever the heck they want, right? And they arrange things to protect themselves, and it looks like that's exactly what's happening with Disney.
Yeah.
Difference is Disney is not in a situation where they can F around for too much. They're carrying a lot of debt ever since the $5 billion to buy Star Wars that has not paid off the way they needed to. Now Marvel is starting to, it's past its plateau. It's starting to go downhill the other side.
It's like,
We're feeling pretty strong about. Here I am. I'm sipping on Rockstar over here.
Rockstar.
Mhm.
What is Rockstar?
It's an energy drink. I'm getting
yeah.
amped.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
What I like is Melissa Harris said, Netter, owning stock does that make Disney's boss? I was wondering. Oh, I wish that they would have to come to me
So
anytime they need to make a decision.
Sort of. What happens is every year we get a stockholders packet, and we do have a vote on what happens going forward. The problem is our shares are so tiny
Yeah,
that the
doesn't make a
best that we could
difference.
do is turn over our vote to, like, think of it like a union rep kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Someone who would speak for all the people that own these stocks that feel this way. And we've done that. But our little portion is so tiny, so tiny. Yeah.
Now, do you think a lot of this, though? I mean, it's probably a accumulation of a lot of things, but I do think Disneyland being closed, not being able to reopen at all,
Yep.
has does
And
have
it does look like from this article, a lot of it is that from and I am gonna hold up Neon and Geeky over on at Clownfish. They talk a lot about Disney's business because they do a blog specific. What is it? Pirates and Princesses.
Yes,
And
Pirates and
they
Princesses.
talk about Disney's business. I follow them a lot because obviously we're kind of in the same boat with them on Disney. And one of the things they've been saying is, they actually went to the parks because they're season ticket holders and they live near Disneyland. I think they live in California, and they were saying, you think that they're supposed to have limited people there, and so no lines for the rides, and no, it is not good. They seem to have just as many people as they normally do, but they're not supposed to, and they're not even really sure how they're managing what they're doing. But you can't sit within so many feet of people in the sitting room, when you go to get something to eat. So now there's even less places to sit and eat. So
And that
it's
was already
pretty
a thing,
miserable,
Yeah.
Now, one thing I do like is in this article, they do wrap it up by saying that they're working with the government and civic partners to provide as much support as possible to the workers and their families who are out of work through no fault of their own. I'd have to kind of commend them for that because when Troy and I lost our jobs, no one was looking out for us.
Yeah.
what's really sucky is that we were for the same company and worked in the same department, and they let us both go. It's like, couldn't have kept one of us, you
But I'll
know?
be honest with you.
Yeah.
I read that, and I read it a lot more cynically than you do. I take that as we're working with the government, which means we're cutting them loose and the government can put them on unemployment for 6 months. I think that's how I read it. That's their way of, in quotes, working with the government.
Yeah.
I don't give them that much credit beyond that.
Well, I'm refusing to read the rest of their little paragraph because they're hating on people, and I won't read somebody hating on people.
I know. It's the discourse has gotten so dark, you know. It's really a shame, but yeah, that's where we are in 2020, people.
This is a dark year.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is.
And it's like it's not a very fun year either. I do have one news story tonight I will get to later that I think is a good news story, but something I'm actually looking forward to. But we'll get to it later. You can probably guess,
Okay.
Troy. But anyway,
Yep.
But I don't know. How did you? I am curious. So you two as stockholders, how did you feel about the Disney purchasing of 20th Century Fox? Did you think that was a good move, or did you not have an opinion?
Well, I'll let Netter go first.
Okay.
Well, I'm kind of on two minds of it because years ago I used to work for a company where I helped them with their workers' compensation self-insurance licenses every year, and that was one of my clients, 20th Century Fox. So they're kind of a little near and dear to my heart. But then I'm thinking of it as okay, the Disney's helping out, but it's Disney, and they've been screwing up so badly. Oh, poor 20th Century Fox.
Yeah.
So from a pure business standpoint, I look at it as, okay, good. An acquisition. It's good for the Disney stockholders. It's good for business, more properties. And as we move into the digital age and, Disney Plus and so forth, you kind of figure whatever's coming with 20th Century, isn't there a Hulu portion of that
Yes,
in there too?
and that's what I had heard was the reasoning, because I couldn't figure out why they did it. Because I'm like, are they this desperate to get the X-Men in the MCU? Is that why they're doing this?
Well, that none of these things happen in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So they were looking at Hulu. They were looking at the properties that 20th Century Fox owned, like the X-Men and whatever. Was Fantastic Four part of that too?
Fantastic Four they owned as well. And I to be fair, I was sort of sympathetic because I actually love the Fantastic Four more so even than the X-Men. That they should have been the MCU because
absolutely they're trying to bring fix what Marvel effed up by farming all that out. Now,
right.
I'm not disparaging Marvel for doing that. They needed revenue. They were hurting. They went bankrupt. They really did. So they had to do what they had to do. Disney came in kind of as the saviors. Here's the problem though. When a company comes in and acquires a property like 20th Century Fox, that incurs debt. That puts them on very sandy, footing, right? So they need to be sharp. They need to be on point, and they have not been. They have not been shepherding the properties they've pulled in. That's dangerous,
As someone who has worked for quite a few companies who've been acquired by other companies, that's never, it's not necessarily a good thing for the employees, because now it's like, okay, the 20th Century Fox people, are they all going to lose their jobs, or a bunch of them going to lose their jobs because, Disney doesn't know how to manage the finances for it?
Well, the first people that lose their jobs in a situation like that is the management. And I would say, well, that
Good.
Just like we were talking about before, kind of good on you. If you ended up shepherding your company so that it could be acquired and it's your business has been hurting that bad, you kind of deserve to lose your job, right? Under them, the workers, the ones that lose their jobs, it depends on what they do with that business. If Disney and the speculation had been that they were going to keep 20th Century Fox functioning as their own separate entity in order to keep doing the more adult films that, Disney didn't want, the non-family brand name being marred by, fine. They just keep operating the way they are, maybe a little bit slimmer. Still not real clear what's happening with 20th Century Fox. The 20th Century brand is gone. So we no longer get that, opening fanfare with Star Wars, for example, which is kind of sad, right?
I would have figured they would have wanted that back, because now we can put it in front of our Disney Star Wars movies.
For crying out loud, they're always constantly throwing Easter eggs at us and member berries, right? You'd think they'd have capitalized on that one, but nope. No 20th Century Fox. But let's face it, that's not a big deal. That's just window dressing.
It's a little thing, I know, but it's
yeah. It's I think time will tell still what's going to happen with Planet Earth, a division of Disney. Big Al said it's starting to look that way. I'll tell you, before they were able to buy 20th Century Fox, they had to go through the whole antitrust thing. They got through that, but don't look for them to be able to buy Sony now or something else. That's not going to happen. That's not going to meet the antitrust muster anymore. They've pushed it as far as they can. And let's face it, they also don't have the liquidity to be able to go further into debt to buy something else. They know that.
I think I like Sony less than Disney, but because I keep thinking at the bottom of my heart that maybe Disney can reform itself. Maybe it's a big maybe.
So. I hope so, but I'm not seeing any evidence of that.
Oh, Big Al presents Planet. Hello, Big Al. Planet Earth, a division of Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, what Troy just said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He just okay.
Yeah, it always bothers me when big companies get rid of the good things. Mm-hmm. And they start just utilizing the not so good things. It's like, but we like that. Why did you get rid of that? And you're now using this. This is not what we want. We want the other thing. That's what we're here for. We're here for that, not for this.
Anyone watching Mr. H, talking about, the topics he talks about things like Aliens and so forth. And, technically Aliens is now owned by Disney. That's being poorly mismanaged and
can you still get that on Blu-ray? Because I remember Jay Shirofini on his channel, he was telling everybody, you want aliens, you buy those now, because they might
before they decide to change it, right?
Exactly, or vault it or whatever they do.
I agree with Ishii.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna even take it further. I'm gonna say if there is any films, whether it's Disney owned or not, get the solid media, get it on DVD, get it on Blu-ray, get it on whatever means you can, because if you don't, look at the scare we just had with Gone with the Wind. Look, I don't care what you think about movies, okay, and whether they're in quotes problematic. That's history, okay? They're trying to get rid of history, and film is an art form that needs to be remembered. Okay,
yeah, it needs to be preserved.
That's why I have a reconstructed copy of Song of the South on Blu-ray. You'll never see it released in the United States.
I have to tell you, I've been collecting DVDs from the beginning, and I was waiting to see if that would ever get a release. Never happened. They heamed and hawed. I think they released a lot of stuff, even with the Disney Treasures line. Like people kept thinking, maybe Disney should have gone to Criterion. They could have put a Criterion edition of it. That way it was like, not for the common market. And they would put like, they would put a disclaimer thing on the front, like sometimes Richard Malton would do.
Right.
In front of the some of the Disney Treasures cartoons that were, from the time.
Well, I do have, like I said, I do have my own reconstructed version of a Blu-ray and DVD of Song of the South. If you're interested, I promised Sound Engraver a copy, but I can't finish it until I get a new color printer so I can print the cover. But as soon as I do that, I'd be happy to make one for you if you're interested.
Hey, yeah, I would like that very much, actually.
Okay, we'll talk about, I'll just get you later so I can send it to you after.
Yeah, and I can, sure thing. This isn't related to Disney, but I'll get to Melissa's comment in a minute because I'm going to scream. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but anyway, though. Nanette, have anything further to add?
I think we pretty much touched on everything that I wanted to talk about. So again, I want to thank you for having me on. I had a lot of fun, and have a really great rest of your show.
Okay, we'll have you on again sometime. We appreciate you stopping by. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Take care, Netter. See you in a few minutes.
Right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I have to, even though this isn't part of our news, I'm going to scream.
Okay.
Melissa Harris. I hope this isn't true.
What's
But I'm saying
I
you're
don't know what
lying.
you're.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
They are remaking Animaniacs on Hulu. I saw that. Will be garbage by getting rid of Hello Nurse and Slappy Squirrel. I don't know if I remember Hello Nurse. I remember. I don't know if I remember Slappy Squirrel. I remember Hello Nurse.
Yeah.
Don't
Hello, nurse.
Don't get rid of Hello Nurse.
Right?
Don't
Slappy
do
Squirrel
it.
was what? What's wrong with Slappy Squirrel?
I don't remember. They have them on Hulu. The old episodes. I need to rewatch them. It's been years.
Slappy Squirrel was hysterical. She was this grumpy old.
Oh,
you know,
I remember her, the old lady.
So you're supposed to believe that her character was a young, starlet back in old Hollywood,
Right,
and now
I
she's
do remember her
old
now. Yeah.
and she's grumpy, and yeah.
Why are they getting rid of her?
I don't know.
News item for next week. Okay. All right. Okay.
We'll look more into that and talk more about that. But man.
Okay. While we're on Disney, Lion King 2.
Oh, for freak's sake. So I don't know if you guys noticed my thumbnail. I used the image of Mufasa falling off the cliff. Look, you know how I feel about these in quotes live action remakes to begin with, but then the Lion King, can you even call it a live action remake? It's just a different version of animation. You're just rehashing the same stuff. So now you're going to continue down the same losing proposition that Disney went through in the 90s with all their stupid sequels that nobody liked. These sequels of classics aren't any better than remakes of classics.
I remember when that happened. That was when Michael Eisner took full reins. Of course, now I'm looking back and I'm almost looking at those as the good old days.
Right?
But like
Aladdin 2, The Revenge of Jafar,
I will say this, that was a pilot for the show, and at least that was the first one they did. That wasn't terrible. It wasn't as good as the original movie, obviously.
Yeah.
The songs weren't there, but
what was it, Sleeping Beauty, Lost in Time, or something?
That one made me upset that when they started going after the classic films, because at least with the newer movies, even though I didn't think they should do it with those. I mean, with Aladdin, I didn't care about the sequel, but then they made a series, and I actually liked the series. So then it made more sense that they were expanding out from that. Okay, but like with other things like Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, I don't know. I didn't see that.
That was terrible.
There's probably they did Lilo and Stitch 2. They did all sorts of things, but I didn't like it when they did Cinderella 2. I think it was Cinderella 2 Happily Ever After. I'm like, there's no sequel to Cinderella. It's over. It ended.
Right. When you end end your story with "and they all lived happily ever after," they all lived happily ever after. That's the end.
Yes. Hello, Sound Engraver. Wow, I can't type on my iPad. Yeah, I run into that problem too. Thank you for stopping by.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here. Hope you're enjoying your sabbatical.
Yes. Okay, but
hope we're not ruining it with all of our grousing and
this is the we should call this the grousing stream, because I'm telling you, I think this is what happened to a certain other person that used to do stuff.
Honestly, as we go through the week with grabbing hold of headlines, we look for something positive. There just isn't that much that's positive.
Well, plus I think this year just in general was bad, and a lot of the rumors too. I don't know, some of these. I think this one was greenlit, right? With Lion King 2, this for real, right?
Yes, it's actually happened. Now, what's not clear, I have not seen whether or not it's a sequel or a prequel or both.
Oh, yeah, I'll read it. I'll read you the details I have.
Oh, okay.
Lion King 2, this is from Variety. Director Barry Jenkins, he's the man that I think directed Moonlight, and If Beale Street Could Talk. Moonlight won the Academy Award a few years ago. Movie will be a continuation of the studio's photorealistic remake. So they said it's not a sequel to the original cartoon, because we had one of those already, didn't we?
Yeah, Simba's Pride or whatever it was.
And they did Lion King 2.5 or 1.5 or something. Okay, anyway. 1 point. Okay, but Lion King did very well. The photorealistic remake, 1.5 billion global box office, but it was met with mixed reviews. Did you see this version of Lion King?
No, I did not.
I actively avoided it.
I was so confused because they recast all the voices except for James Earl Jones. And I'm like, why would you do that? I mean, why? What's the point? Really, what's the point of making it frame for frame an exact remake?
But,
I mean, I didn't understand it when they did that with Psycho. I mean, heck, we didn't even get the shower scene with nudity. What's the point of remaking it if you don't do that? Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Actually, make it weird.
No. Actually, though, Ty West actually said something. He's a horror. He's like an indie horror director I kind of like, but he made a point that he thought that he did one of those trailers from hell for the Psycho remake by Gus Van Sant because he said it was a brilliant experiment in film.
Yeah.
Because he says, what happens if you get a different director, but then you reshoot the same movie, like shot for shot, over again? Will it have the same effect? And it proved, no, it won't.
Yeah.
He said as an experiment, it's interesting. So
exactly. And that's how I looked at it too. That's the kind of thing that you want to show in a film school and show this is what happens with a different director. There's a brilliant director and then there's WTF, you know?
I will say one thing about the Psycho remake that I did like, though. I did like the interplay between William H. Macy and I just had his name in my head. He's a comic actor. Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
When he was doing the drilling, that was actually good. I mean, that one scene was good. I mean, the original is great too, but
I would say the other thing that I think is highlighted by that remake is how less is more, right?
Yes.
So you get that voyeurism of Norman Bates, right? Peeking through the whatnot. But then in the remake, they go too far, and you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
without saying it, I mean it's more than voyeurism. Okay, it's pushing the creepy to the point of there's no question about what he's doing, and it's like we don't need that.
Oh, I know the scene you're referring to.
You know,
okay,
yeah.
And we didn't need that because I didn't necessarily get that impression from him in the original movie either. That maybe because that. Anyway, we family stream. Anyway,
no, but exactly. So you get what I'm saying. Anybody who's seen that remake knows what we're talking about.
I know.
And it's like, enough. Alrighty, okay. If we don't need remakes, okay. I've said it before. I'm saying it again. We don't need remakes. If we want to see the movie, that movie exists. We can go watch it. If you want to do a completely different take on it, if there's something that, I mean, I'll give you an example. Disney, instead of giving us a remake of Treasure Island, they gave us Treasure Planet. That's a brilliant way to in quotes remake something. That was a horribly underrated movie. That movie should have done so much better than it did.
Right.
And now I hear they're doing an in quotes live action remake of that. I kind of can't argue against that because I felt that original cartoon didn't get its just desserts.
Was it Treasure Planet or Atlantis?
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe. Well, both.
They could be doing both. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Both of those movies were those cartoons were sadly snubbed sleepers that deserved much better than they got. I would encourage people to go and check those out, but if they get remade in any form, I'm all for that. Good on them. But things that were classics, beloved classics, give it up already, Disney. How well did the sequel to Mary Poppins do? You know, how well have all of your live action remakes done? Do you think these things are going to save your company? What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Give it up already.
Okay, but Troy, but they did change some things in the remake. They got rid of They got rid of
everything that people liked. Yeah.
The voice actors. Yeah.
I was listening to a live stream from Midnight's Edge, and I forget his name, Tom something or other. from Midnight's Edge was he said something that I thought was absolutely brilliant. And I don't remember exactly what franchise they were talking about, but it doesn't matter. He's because all these franchises, they keep wanting to subvert expectations. And he said, quit trying to subvert expectations and start trying to exceed expectations.
Yeah,
as soon as you do that, you will be a success.
Well, definitely, especially when dealing with something like Star Wars, or maybe, but we'll see. Maybe this one will exceed expectations. It looks like it's going to. Sources say it's going to focus on the early years of Mufasa. So maybe it's not actually a sequel, but a prequel.
Yeah, and how well have prequels worked out so far for them? Somebody, a friend of mine who isn't even in the YouTubing community, he made an excellent point that I have not been able to forget. He hates all prequels, and I said, why? He said, what's the point? We know how the movie ends. Necessarily, we know where the story's going, so there is no mystery. And for the using Star Wars as an example, we've already built up the prequel in our minds. From individual lines from the original series, we kind of already knew where the story came from. The only thing you could do is ruin it for the fans. You're never going to exceed our expectations, so don't even try.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have a point there.
I think the prequels have done really well now in retrospect, because we're now comparing them to what Disney has done since.
They could at least make some decent video games off of them.
Exactly. And we're getting some great action figures now.
And action figures, yeah.
With the clone troopers and whatnot.
And the world building was very good in those. I remember that. I mean, it was still the Star Wars universe,
Yeah, yeah. So and I think you're right. When we look back and we go, well, what did we not like? We didn't like Jar Jar. Well, we didn't like the Ewoks either. That's not a big deal. That doesn't ruin the universe. We didn't like what happened with the Jedi and how Anakin was treated. Well, that was kind of the implied story, right?
Yeah, I mean, we always knew he was going to go for a fall. I think I remember when I was younger, I never expected the prequels to focus on Anakin. I thought he was going to be a side character, and Obi-Wan was going to be the main character.
Right.
And it would have been about his
which is what we got when we got to the Clone Wars. You get the right the right directors and the right writers.
And they probably filled that in the Clone Wars, because they always talked about their adventures in the movies, but I guess Lucas wanted to get to the meat of it and not do the other stuff. But Jeff Nathanson to return as screenwriter for Lion King 2. He worked on the screenplay for the Lion King remake, and I keep wondering, was there much to rewrite? But I haven't seen it, so maybe I'm being too harsh.
Well, my concern is, even if he did a great job with that, remake, I look at Game of Thrones. When you've got something that you're just taking one for one and adapting, that doesn't require a great deal of skill. The skill that is required is when you run out of material and you have to do it from scratch. And Game of Thrones fell on its face. Does this guy have the chops to go into uncharted waters?
I don't know. Don't bring up.
Does Disney really want to take those risks with their properties?
Yeah, probably not. But I was thinking that this could be the Godfather 2 of Disney movies, because it would be like how you had like the young Marlon Brando being played by
maybe
a guy who was in Taxi Driver. I hate it when I forget actor.
De Niro.
De Niro, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
But anyway, we're probably not going to get that. But there was a little blurb in this article I read, and the live action Aladdin is also getting a sequel.
Why?
It did very good box office.
Did it?
Yes, it did. It exceeded. No one expected it to do as well, so I guess people ran out to the theater that weekend. I don't know how that. Maybe it'll be an adaptation of Return of Jafar.
Oh, that should be wonderful. I mean, wow. Okay, all my concerns about Disney, forget it. Disney saved.
Oh, yes. Okay. Anyway, Santa Guerrero says not subverting our expectations would subvert our expectations.
Wouldn't it? Right?
Okay.
Give us what we ask for, and we would be shocked. Oh
Okay.
gosh.
Well, speaking of other Disney properties, I think I had mentioned in the beginning
Uh-huh.
about I mentioned on the not in the beginning on the title, future of Star Wars, and then I'm looking at all my notes and I'm saying I don't have one article in here about Star Wars, but then
Yeah.
I found the Daisy Ridley interview from 3 weeks ago when she was on Jimmy Kimmel Live that was hosted by Josh Gad. Okay, you
Yeah,
probably already saw that, didn't you?
I did. Let me drop the article for everyone. Sure.
We probably already talked about this, but there
A
was a
little
thing
bit.
we might
Yeah.
have missed on here. Okay, yeah.
But I think my response to you was the Ryan Reynolds meme. But why?
Yes, yes. She has great teeth, though. I have to say. I
I
anyway.
she's got a lot of great
No,
assets,
no.
you know.
Yes, yes.
I mean,
I hope she can be in better movies someday, and we can all
well,
forget
but
about
here's
Green Beret.
here's what a lot of people have pointed
Yeah,
out, and I don't
yeah,
think they're at all wrong.
yeah.
Um, how is she as an actress, really? Put aside what you think about Star Wars. Look at the roles she's been in. She has not really distinguished herself as a
Yeah.
really good actress.
She was
So
in.
when
Yeah.
people point out, well, she's had a hard time getting roles afterwards, maybe it's because people are looking at what she's done and going, yeah, no, let's go with
Well,
someone else.
well, Martin Scorsese has to maybe help her out. Maybe I don't know.
She's not pulling a what Joaquin Phoenix, right, or Sigourney Weaver, or
No.
what'd you say, De Niro. I mean, we look at those people and we see them in different roles and we go,
Uh,
wow, that person's got range, they've got emotion, then you look at Daisy Ridley and you go, well, that was a pretty wooden, but she's done other roles. Okay, she played a dead body. Okay, what else has she played? Okay, she played this role.
she was in Murder on the Orient Express, where she was one of the passengers.
And yeah,
Okay.
oh, range of character. That
It's funny.
no,
I kept wondering who is that, and I'm thinking, oh, it's Daisy Ridley wearing lipstick because I hadn't seen her
yeah,
wear lipstick up until that point because they dressed down Ray. Anyway, okay, but do you want? But they Josh Gad asked her, "Will Ray return?" Okay,
yeah,
and this is her quote. I mean, the world is in a crazy place right now. 10 years seems an awfully long way. Well, he says, yeah, first he asks her if you're going to do it in like 10 years. He says, I mean, the world is a crazy place right now. 10 years seems an awfully long way away. I'd never say never, but to me, the rise of Skywalker was tied off with a bow.
yeah.
September 8th.
Well, I'm one thing I'm dropping here. I'm dropping the link to my Facebook group that I call boycott the Disney Star Wars for its own good. I posted a video that I was watching. It's an old behind the scenes, the so-called Lost Empire Strikes Back documentary from 1980, and
Yes.
I was really struck by especially Mark Hamill as they're talking to him back in 1980. These actors all had a great. They very obliquely talk about the movie because it's not out yet. They don't want to ruin anything, but they talk about it from the point of view of storycraft. So you have Mark Hamill talking about, yeah, Luke, has a vision of, and he keeps saying, instead of referring to the characters, he's referring to the actors. So he goes, yeah, so while I'm off doing one thing, Carrie and Harrison are off in hyperspace doing something else, which I thought was so adorable. I think that's just so cute. And he says, and then I have this vision of Alec Guinness, Ben Kenobi, and he sends me to get trained by the person that taught him the ways of the Force. And he's talking about it in this very storycraft kind of way. These guys all knew what the story was and where it was going and what the vision was. And, it was all laid out for him. There was a plan. Lucas had a plan and they all knew that plan. They were all in on it. You would never be able to have those kinds of scenes with these actors now because Daisy Ridley has and other actors in these sequels have come out and said, yeah, we had no clue. We didn't know we filmed 3-4 different scenes and we waited until it was released to see which one they went with. you know. And she said, yeah, I knew there was a plan. There was talk about me being related to Obi-Wan and maybe being a Skywalker. Then it was maybe I had, you know, my parents were nothing, and I guess they decided to go with I was related to Palpatine.
And then I remember Josh Gad asked her, what who was your grandmother on the Palpatine side, and she's like,
I don't know. Tell me.
Don't you think, as an actor playing a character, these are things you need to know? You need to know all the backstory.
I mean, most actors that really get into the emoting and whatnot, even if I honestly think some of the best acting I've seen have come from people that later on, years later, said, you know, I know this was never spelled out anywhere, but I always imagined in the back of my mind this backstory and you're like, man, I can kind of see that coming through. One example I'll give is Charlotte Stewart, who played a mother character in Twin Peaks. She talks about how she had this idea about her and her husband and her son and their whole backstory and their life together and all these things. And some of them actually came to fruition in the, you know, recent Showtime thing, you know,
yes.
Because she shared them with David Lynch, and he's like, I like that. That's a great idea. And he went ahead and he, you know, writes that in or allows her to play with those things. And because David Lynch has even said these characters are organic and they have lives that we don't even know about, you know?
I love listening to him talk.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to quote him without doing
he did the thing about watching movies on your iPhone. I can't repeat what he said on the stream.
But, yeah, exactly.
But I'm kind of nodding my head with him, and like he's not wrong.
No.
And then like he also talked about how he didn't direct Return of the Jedi. That was funny how he met George Lucas.
That's right. He was up for that. Exactly.
Think about two creators completely different. I mean, I'm not knocking in. And to be fair, he didn't knock George Lucas. He said he does his thing, I do my thing. It's not picking on him. It's just, you know,
yeah. Well, and he had this. He has this respect for other creators that he doesn't want to step on. He knows what he wants to do, for example, with Twin Peaks, right? And he can work with someone like Mark Frost and meet in the middle, and they work very well together. But he also wouldn't want to jump in on somebody else's territory and start, you know, Lucas has a vision. Lucas needed to go with that vision. Mm-hmm. And he, you know, I just can't even imagine what David Lynch, what that would have looked like, you know. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, he did Dune not that long after, so I don't know if that.
Well, we'll be watching that. We'll be watching that coming up
tomorrow.
Well, gosh, tomorrow night. Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll be talking more about David Lynch for sure. But yeah, that's yeah. I don't see Daisy Ridley coming back. I don't see the character. Nobody liked the character.
I know nobody liked Ray, but I know that what's his name, Hayden Christensen had trouble too after the prequels, didn't he? I mean, I saw him in some things, but
yeah. Again, these things don't happen in a vacuum. There were things that going on in his own life, you know, and
I see. Okay,
you know, I mean, so it could have been that. Is it because he was having hard time getting roles that led to problems in his life? Was it problems in his life that led to him not getting roles? Could be a little bit 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Right.
But again, Hollywood is difficult. Okay. Just because you have one success, it does not equate to future success. On the same token, that whole idea about being typecast, there can be something in it, but not necessarily either. You know, I don't think that Mark Hamill failed to get roles because everyone looked at him as Luke Skywalker. If that was the case, he could have played plenty more hero roles. You know, it's just, I just don't see you in this role, you know, but wow, he did a lot of voice acting. I mean, he literally started right out of Star Wars doing the voice acting thing. And he turned that into a huge success. He's constantly been working, you know, Carrie Fisher. A lot of her problems in Hollywood were partly because of the problems she had in Hollywood and her own personal life and whatnot. And as she worked through that and the whole postcards from the edge and whatnot, she said, you know what? acting's not my thing, but I'll work on editing. She did a lot of editing.
Good for
She
her.
contributed to a lot of movies that people don't even realize. Some of the movies they love are specifically because Carrie Fisher went in and doctored those scripts and fixed them.
And editing, that's a tough job. I mean, you have to be good at it to work in it. So that's
exactly.
Otherwise, it'll come off like a sore thumb.
Exactly.
Brian Gilmartin says Daisy Ridley is another plank of wood like Brie Larson. I kind of hope not.
She kind of is, though. She doesn't have the negativity that comes from her shooting off her mouth off screen. But as far as pure acting, I'm sorry. I can't disagree with him.
She has a nice Cheshire Cat smile. I don't know. Okay, anyway, I'll quit fawning over Daisy.
Well, I mean, even Brie Larson's got some attractive assets, but they're not enough to overcome other failings.
Well, while we're on the subject of Brie Larson,
yeah, I figured you'd want to go that
because I saw Brian Gilmartin made a nice segue for us. Okay, apparently, rumor has it, I think they're working on a Nick Fury TV series, though we're not sure if that's exactly what it's going to be. But that rumor has it that Brie Larson will appear as Captain Marvel in a Nick Fury series. This is from Bounding in the Comics. This is, I think they got it from Geekosity's website and scooper Mikey Sutton.
Yep.
I've never heard of Geekosity.
I don't either.
It's a good site or not. Okay. Guest or cameo in an episode could lead into Captain Marvel 2.
Okay.
What do we think?
So, on the one hand, I don't care. But on the other hand, I'll say this. If she was such a big thing, if Captain Marvel was the new face of the Marvel universe that we were supposed to believe that she was going to be, why has it taken so long to get the second movie out? Why are they putting her on TV rather than another movie? Why this build up to get a second movie going? Why do you need to have her on somebody else's show? These things say something, in my opinion. You know, I hate to think that this is me being confirmation bias, but I am kind of seeing a lot of the things we've said about her playing out by inference in this kind of news. That's kind of sad. Can you imagine, for example, if Robert De Niro, he plays, in The Godfather, right?
Right.
And it's a big role for him and everyone loves him, but the movie just barely makes a profit. And then the next time you see him, he's playing a gangster on TV. What does that say about his career? That means he failed. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Captain Marvel the same way. Everyone agrees that there's no way that movie would have done as well as it would have done if they hadn't put it between the two Avengers movies. So people thought they needed to see that movie because they've seen all the other Marvel films, only to find out, I guess we didn't need to see it. And it didn't even really do as well as they expected it to. It pulled a profit, but it wasn't, this big Captain America First Avenger type of profit,
No. That was a big surprise when that happened too.
Exactly. And so then it stalls, and then there was talk about putting her with Spider-Man, and then that never came to fruition. And there's talk and talk and talk. When you see all this talk and no action, that means they don't have a plan. They're stalled and they're lost, and they don't know what to do with her. So now there's talk about putting her on cable with Nick Fury. Nick Fury, who they throw into everything to give it a boost. That's how S.H.I.E.L.D. got started.
He was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
Yeah, he was on the show for a couple episodes. He would show up because Samuel Jackson tends to show up in everything, actually. That's kind of
he's smart, right?
That was the old joke back in the day. It's 10 movies come out this summer. 9 of them have Samuel Jackson in some role.
Right. I know Netter really doesn't like him, but she doesn't like him because she takes that whole Coulson's Cards thing so seriously.
Right,
I love her for it. I love the fact that she's such a geek girl and she gets it, but she holds it against Sam Jackson. And it's like, that's kind of not fair. And yeah, some of the roles he's played have been pretty, how would he put it? MF and abrasive, right? But whatever you think about him, as an actor, you got to give him. He's pulling in the bank because he keeps taking roles, and there's no role that's too big and there's no role that's too small for him. And I gotta say, I admire that, and he'll do TV and he'll do commercials and he'll do the movie and he'll do the starring role and he'll do the background Jedi with, as long as I get a purple lightsaber. I mean, you gotta respect that. And so then when you talk about these other actors that can't get any work, well, maybe they're shooting for the moon. Maybe they're holding out, or you know what? Maybe it's time to do a commercial.
Yeah,
keep working. This is what happens when you're out of work. You get a job, or you try to get a job. I know I'm in that position.
Remember when Professor Geek did on his Tuesday night rewatches? You were there, obviously, but the one with Edward G. Robinson and what's the name of it? The Norm one we did. The guy, he meets his he meets up with this married woman and they're going to murder the husband.
Oh, right. Was that Double Indemnity?
Double Indemnity, yeah. And Edward G. Robinson was used to doing bigger parts, and he said, you know what? I can either take this smaller part and less money, but this is going to be an important movie. I'll just do that. Yeah. And it ended up helping his career out a lot because it ended up being a big hit. But he said he humbled himself and says, I'm not quite the leading man or leading actor that I used to be. Yeah. But this is still a good role, even though it's smaller,
well, Yeah. And at the risk of causing, people to go and, start their reactions. Hopefully I don't cause you to lose any subscribers over this, but there's always this talk about, the difference between men and women in Hollywood. But if you look at it critically, what happens? The male roles, men change as they get older. They start out in the Luke Skywalker role. They end up later on playing the Obi-Wan role. They end up playing the background character role later on. Okay. They evolve. Women's roles ought to do the same thing. And the most successful female actresses do that. I mean, you look at Helen Mirren. She was beautiful, sexy, and she played the love interest when she was younger. And she plays different roles as she gets older. Now she plays, the older, wiser woman. She made the transition. This is what you're supposed to do as an actor. You play different roles depending on what your age, your look, your ability is. If you don't have the ability to change and act, then I'm sorry, you're not going to. If you're relying on your youth and your looks, then you got to expect that your acting career is going to end at a certain point, very young.
And to be fair, we've seen her, and I know her just because she's everywhere.
Who's that? Helen Mirren?
Yeah, Helen Mirren. Yeah.
And I'll tell you something else. People are so quick to say, men are still attractive when they're older, and men don't feel that way about women. I disagree. I still think Helen Mirren is beautiful. She is absolutely still beautiful, in my opinion. So people need to get over that resentment against how men, the male gaze and whatnot.
Yeah.
And let's start being fair here.
She was in Excalibur.
Oh, that's right.
She was Morgan Le Fay.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I was like, who is that? That's Helen Mirren.
Yep.
But as far as, here's what happened, I think, with Brie Larson. She got a big head because she won the Academy Award for Best Actress for that movie where I guess she was the captive woman who inside the dude's basement. I didn't see it, but
yeah.
Okay, The Room, I think it was called, and she got the best actress award. And after that, I think then they're like, I know that I'm not sure why Marvel cast her as Captain Marvel. I think part of the reason was, well, she's a blonde. I guess she's young enough. She won Best Actress, and they were going. Sometimes they would go for what they would consider prestige actors like Robert Downey Jr. or Edward Norton, who they dumped. But anyway,
I do not fault them for their initial choice.
Yeah,
the problem was they were okay with her branding as she went forward, and they should have slapped that down and done what Disney would do in the past.
Like her agent should have yelled at her, which maybe the agent had. I don't know.
I mean, who knows? But Disney definitely should have said, "Look, no more of that. You're going to back off of that. You're going to keep quiet. You're going to say positive things about positive topics, specifically about the movies you're going to be in, and that's it.
I mean, if you want to see a great movie about an actor dealing with an agent, look at. Have you ever seen the movie Autofocus about Bob Crane, the star of Hogan's Heroes?
No, but now I'm really interested.
Greg Kinnear stars as him, and it's, you know, he had a side social life that was, you know, wouldn't be okay with the press, and
Sure.
his agent kept trying to talk to him about being discreet and stuff, and you know, it actually shows an actor spiraling down from success, and I'm thinking that could be happening with Brie Larson, and I'm going to say this too. Another thing is, I don't know if you ever watched James Bond movies, but do you remember George Lazenby, the man that replaced Sean Connery?
Yes, my favorite James Bond film. Before the honor man. What do you call it? This new guy, his first movie. You know what I mean?
George Lazenby.
Well, no, George Lazenby was On Her Majesty's Secret Service. That was my favorite film until
Roger
the
Moore?
new guy took over.
Roger Moore.
No. The guy who's currently playing James Bond.
Daniel Craig.
Yeah, whatever his first movie was.
Casino Royale.
Casino Royale, right.
Well, that was another adaptation. I think those were two of the probably the best attempts at trying to adapt one of the Bond novels.
Yep.
They were trying to stay true to the novel. I think that's what they were trying to do with On Her Majesty's Secret Service. But
I agree.
That's
why I loved it.
The British press did attack Lazenby at the time, but there was another thing that he did, which was a big mistake. He was they were having a wrap up dinner after the production was done, and Lazenby comes out and like he's moping, and they're like, "Hey, you're not eating anything," and he said, "Well, there wasn't a special seat for me anywhere." "Well, you can sit wherever you want," and he says, "But I'm the star." And then one of the producers looked at him and he says, "You are not a star until the public makes you a star, and that has not happened yet."
Yep.
And I don't think that's happened with Brie Larson. Okay.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
And I think that she really should have looked at that as you have to endear yourself to the public first and not be going off on these political rants all the time about, you know, your critics and yelling at people for not liking your movie. Did you remember when the Unicorn Store came out? She had she got into a beef with some guy on Twitter who said that doesn't look good. I think that's all he said. And then suddenly I think everybody started attacking this guy, and it was like, you know, it's just some guy expressing his opinion that he didn't like the way the movie looked from a trailer.
Yeah. Exactly. But now in the way social media works, you're not allowed to have an opinion. We'll tell you what your opinion needs to be.
She, as the star, needs to be above that and not get involved in that fray, okay?
Exactly.
You know, ignore the people that knock you down and then just say, I mean, to be fair, I did watch the Unicorn Store.
Is that the one that the meme comes from where she's got the line about, I don't have a negative aura, I have a loving aura or something like that?
I think so, but I'm not positive.
They meme that much because that's so much her, you
know? Oh man. It was in the first 20 minutes, I'm like, okay, maybe this will be a fun little indie comedy. And then it just went downhill like after 50 minutes. I'm like, no, this is not going. I actually tried giving her the benefit of the doubt too. I was like, go in there without bias and see, because I was just curious, and no.
Well, let's pivot this a little bit. As long as we're on the Captain Marvel train, the news that they've cast Kamala Khan has come out. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know anything about that.
What the casting of Ms. Marvel reveals about the future of the MCU. And I've seen the girl that they cast. I don't remember her name, but that's kind of part of the point. She's someone you've probably never heard about. She's a Canadian actress.
Okay.
She looks the role. Not that I care about this character. She's just, you know, Mr. Fantastic, but, you know, ethnic. I mean, whoop-de-doo. But if you got to cast her, and they're casting a fairly unknown actress. Okay. That's saying something. This is something you've heard me say this many, many times. They're always looking for the big name when they cast a role, when what they really should be looking for is someone who looks the part, who's got skills, who auditions and does a great job. And you go, you know what? They'll be good. And I think they will be a star. Not that they are a star, but that they can be and will be a star going forward.
Like Christopher Reeve.
Like Christopher Reeve, exactly. So this article is saying, hey, maybe they're not going for the Robert Downey Jr.'s anymore. Maybe now they're going for the unnamed stars, maybe for less money too, because they don't have the budgets they used to.
Well, what was Chris Hemsworth in before he was Thor?
Something, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah.
Wasn't he in was Cabin in the Woods before he did Thor?
It was, but the trouble was it didn't get released until around the same time as Thor because it was stuck on a shelf.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. So
there's one, and I think he may have been in a role or two before that. But yeah, I mean that's a great example.
But maybe this is more of a no name than even he was. Maybe that's the point you're trying
exactly.
to make.
Exactly. And let's face it, some of the other actors that they've brought in were middle tier actors that had some notoriety but aren't huge names and don't really become huge names until they're put into the roles that they're in.
That's true.
But I encourage that. I think it's about time that if you're a big star, it goes back to what we were saying about the powers that be in these companies. If you're going to make these big bucks, then you need to have the results. You need to earn that. And if you're not earning it, you're not going to keep making it. And, hey, Robert Downey Jr., you're doing a great job, and you're doing a great job on and off the screen, and you really build the brand. And so we're willing to back the truck up for you. Fine. Yeah. That's great. But when he's done and you're moving on to another actor, well, no sense shelling out bucks you don't need to shell out. Bring in the new star, the budding rising star, give them a chance, and make an investment. That's what investing is all about. And they'll start negotiating later on, and that's fine. You've saved a lot of money up till then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. Do we need Kamala Khan? F no. We don't need the freaking all new, all different Marvel. I have no interest in Marvel going forward since that's the route they're going. But I have no problem with this casting.
Yeah. I mean, Fourth Age. I almost feel bad for the actress if this could. Anyway, I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Maybe if they get a good enough director, they can figure out a way to make it work. I don't know. That was a creation of the Fourth Age. Has a bunch of videos on it. I don't feel like getting into it here, but he goes all the way into her origin. What the whole. Yeah. I think in many ways it was just a stunt, but anyway, we'll see.
If that's what they want to try building the next phase of the Marvel universe around, that's fine for them, but they can't afford to not knock it out of the park at this point. Disney can't afford it. We've kind of already covered that.
Yeah. And it's just, we'll see what happens. Is this going to be in a series or a movie?
I think it's an upcoming movie.
Okay. So we'll see. Okay.
The next stage but I'll tell you something else.
What if she's in Captain Marvel too?
I feel sorry for her. I mean, your career's over before it started. I don't know.
Okay. Anyways,
I don't know what to tell you on that. All I can say is you're looking at a Marvel leading up to the Infinity War. They used the storylines from classic comics for over 50, 60 years of comics. These were classic stories that are beloved. They adapted them very well, and they did very well. Now they're going to adapt a comic book era that nobody liked, that Marvel went bankrupt during, and they think it's going to play better on the big screen. Really? I mean, that would be like somebody mortgaging their house to start producing Edsels.
Well, it's like Kevin Smith said when he was talking about when he was being commissioned to write the screenplay for that Superman movie, and talking to the producer, he said, "You kind of fail upwards in Hollywood sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Netter's pointing out some other roles that Chris Hemsworth was in. All of those were after he did Thor.
I think I think he has star power. I'm not saying he doesn't.
He absolutely does.
Yeah. I just think
but our speculation was that did he have any star power before he became Thor? Thor brought him the star power.
Yeah, I mean, people saw him in that.
I mean, he was also in that Ghostbusters abortion film. You know, I mean, and he was just terrible in that. I mean, if I was everything I said about take the role to keep working, you do have to look at the role and say, yeah, this one is so bad. I don't want to be part of it. I'd rather do nothing than this.
Did I? Did I tell you?
I don't know. I need another word to guess.
I lost my train of thought now. Crap. Okay, never mind. I got distracted.
We were talking about Chris Hemsworth passing on a role because it sucked.
Oh, Ghostbusters. Yeah, Ghostbusters 2. I ended up getting a free copy of that by accident, and I've actively avoided having anything to do with that movie. Then I switched over to Movies Anywhere service, and one of the free movies was Ghostbusters Answer the Call. And I'm like, no, you gave it to me. And I guess I can remove it from my account if I want to, but I don't know. It's just.
So you haven't watched it yet?
I haven't watched it yet. No,
I haven't either. But
some people that liked it, but I haven't.
I'll tell you what. There are terrible B horror films showing for free on Tubi that I would rather watch. Than Ghostbusters Answer the Call. That just I every time I see a scene from it, there was somebody. You know how Facebook will show you like clips from movies, and I've actually seen some clips that got me interested in movies that I've ended up watching because I've seen them. Somebody shared a clip from Answer the Call, and it's Chris Hemsworth, who, you know, he's playing the Janine role, right? The receptionist at the Ghostbusters company or whatever. Is it okay if I bring my cat to work? You know.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'm allergic to cats. I don't have a cat. My dog is named My Cat, you know, and it's like, funny. This is what passed as humorous. Really?
This is improv acting. I think it's a style of acting where you take something and you throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. And it doesn't always stick. And I'm not picking on that, but it's up for the director and the editor to cut that out.
Exactly. You know? and to say, yeah, that worked or no, that didn't. I mean, let's face it. The original Ghostbusters, a lot of the best lines were improv.
Yes.
But that's because you had geniuses like Bill Murray, you know, that would throw something out there, or they knew how to work off of each other. They had that kind of rapport. When you have what's his name who played Egon? Help me out. I'm
so bad with names lately. It's old age. It happens to us. Okay. Egon Ghostbusters. I'll look it up.
Here it is. It's Harold Ramis. You have Harold Ramis, and you have and you have Bill Murray, you know, and that one bit where he says, yeah, you get these crazy ideas like that time you tried to give yourself a lobotomy with a power drill. It would have worked too if you hadn't stopped me. That was improv, and it was brilliant. And they go, cut, print, we're keeping that line, you know. That's brilliant stuff. But I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor that didn't work. I mean, just even if you watch, what's his name? Jim Carrey, his films, there's a lot of outtakes, and they clearly were not going to make it into the movie. They were hysterical, but they didn't fit, and they fell apart. And he knew that when he did it, but he was having fun, and they picked what worked, and they left out what didn't. And yeah, you
that's all it is. I mean, and I'm just thinking he left everything in.
Yeah, and they just left everything in. I almost get the impression from that Ghostbusters movie that they had no script. They were just like, well, here's the general outline. We're going with the general outline of what the guys did back in the 80s. Go, do it, make it up. And yeah, well, they got what they got. You know, that's history.
According to another, Chris Hemsworth will be in an untitled Hulk Hogan biopic. That could be interesting.
Oh my gosh, that could be really, really good.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I'll pass on Love and Thunder.
Yeah, I'm having trepidations about that. I'm using that word a lot lately. It's a trepidatious year. Okay. So what do we want to move on to next? This was what I thought was good news. You might disagree, but I know Melissa Harris in the chat was mentioning Evil Dead Rise was announced.
Oh yeah. See, I have to admit I don't even know. I didn't watch the series that was on recently. What was it called?
Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Ash versus Eve. I didn't even see it. Not that I had anything against it.
Okay.
I honestly I didn't hear much about it. I'm assuming it was probably pretty good.
I saw it.
Hey, I love the Evil Dead. So if it's doing well, if that series was good, and what you're hearing about this new one is positive, great. That's a good thing.
Now,
I certainly have nothing against it.
Yeah, let me go back to Ash vs. Evil Dead. I'll like it. It's even darker and bawdier humor than in the movies. Ash is stupider on the show, if you can believe that, than he was in the movies, but it's funny. I laughed out loud several times. It's
That's what's important.
Very gory, very dark. Yeah. That's like the gore of the original Evil Dead movie, but with the comedy of the other ones. Yeah. It'll be worth a rewatch. It was one of the few things that was good on TV while everything else was going woke.
Yeah, so, I guess so.
And it had a diverse cast in it, but it all fit. Do you understand? Because he had like his partner. I forgot what his name was now, but I got the impression that maybe his family had crossed the border illegally, but it was kind of passed off as a joke on the show. And and they all lent themselves. And it like he had sidekicks in it, but the sidekicks worked. Okay, like he was stuck working at a Big Lots in the beginning of the show. I'm not going to get into it, but it was worth seeing. Then there was also the Evil Dead remake movie. Did you see that? The more serious series.
I didn't, and I purposely avoided it because, again, remake. You know how I am on that stuff.
I didn't hate that movie. I'll explain why. When they made the original Evil Dead, and you still may not like this remake anyway, but when they made the original Evil Dead, they were trying to do it very seriously, make a serious, gory, bloody horror movie.
Yeah.
And I think just because of things that happened on the set and the way things looked, when the producer says, I asked you to make a horror movie, you made a comedy. And they said, we weren't trying to, but it was still well received. And then they went with the comedy aspect in the sequels. I think that the one they did was kind of it was an attempt to do a more straight up horror version of that same type of story, except all the characters were different. It wasn't even like they took the same characters and recast them with different actors. The characters were completely different. The scenario was different, and it still had the Book of the Dead and the Cabin in the Woods. That was the only combining theme. And
it's almost not even a remake.
It's almost not even a remake. It's almost like its own own movie. And I
think, recommend it.
Kind of.
You're not really willing to go that far.
It's grown on me. I don't know your taste. I have accepted it as good enough. Okay. Other people probably do not like it at all. Okay. But I thought it was interesting because at least the director was doing something different. Okay. And I think the director they got did his own horror movies too. And it looks like the current director they have, I guess he's an up and coming horror director. He directed a movie called The Hole in the Ground. I think you've heard of it?
No, I have not.
Yeah, I think it's new. I'm going to look for it now because I'm curious to see what this guy's style is like.
Well, you did hit all the touchstones for me when it is a remake. I've always said as long as you're doing something completely different, it might be worth looking into. And what you described, as long as they're not trying to remake Ash.
Yeah, they didn't try to remake Ash at all. In fact, it's funny, during the credit sequence, Ash kind of shows up and says groovy, but he's not in the movie. But Bruce Campbell shows up in it. Sam Raimi endorsed it. He produced it. He hired the director to do it. So it's not like it was outside the company,
I don't give too much weight to it being endorsed by somebody, because for crying out loud, usually that just means I'm making some money off of this. I endorse this. I don't give a crap what it turns out like.
We'll see. But you know what it had a feel of when I watched it? Did you see Sam Raimi's what was it to hell? Oh, I forgot.
Drag Me to Hell?
Drag Me to Hell.
I did not see it.
But kind of had a little bit of that feel to it, more so than the other Evil Dead movies, even though it wasn't directed by Sam Raimi. So I don't know. I kind of liked it. I understand if other people don't.
Yeah.
No,
from what you're saying, it sounds different enough
That'd be worth watching.
Because honestly, I kind of thought that with the original Evil Dead 2, you see it, especially once by the time you get to Army of Darkness, it's taking that big wide turn.
Yes.
And you could have totally seen it gone a different way.
Yes.
If that's the way they're going, I might be interested in checking it out.
Yeah.
But back to Ash and that Evil Dead. Yeah, I'm glad to hear it's continuing on. I'd be interested to see what happens.
Oh, well, actually, this movie, Ash isn't in it.
No, the TV.
The TV series, it's not continuing on. They only did 3 seasons. It was on Stars, and nobody watched it. People argue that it should have been on a streaming service. It probably would have gotten much more views because nobody was going to pay for Stars just to watch Evil Dead. I think my sister was subscribed at the time, so I did watch the first couple seasons. And then when the 3rd season became available to purchase digitally, I just bought it then.
Gotcha.
And But I really enjoyed it. Bruce Campbell said he's done playing him for a while, maybe forever. But he did a great job those 3 seasons. And it sort of even has an ending, but like a ending question mark, but
sure,
an ending all the same. And it was well done. I do highly recommend it to anyone in the chat if you're a fan of that, watch the show. But this, I don't know if this is going to be its own thing or if it's taking off of the other Evil Dead remake, but apparently this director talked with Sam Raimi and he said, what are you guys going to do with the Evil Dead franchise? And well, we're looking for a young director who'd be interested. And he said, do you know anyone? Well, I'd be interested. Not that he's young. He said, you fly me that I'm young. But apparently he wants to have it take place in a high-rise skyscraper, have the Deadites in a high-rise skyscraper. That might be interesting because what he wants to do is he's a fan of the Evil Dead, but he also is a director too. So he has to sort of do something original, but he thinks the original thing is changing up the location. And they wouldn't have been able to get Bruce Campbell for this because he said he's done with the character
that
at the time.
Seems, yeah, I can't even picture it. It's the kind of thing where I'd have to see it.
I can, because back in the 80s, there was this Italian movie called Demons, and they did a sequel called Demons 2, and it took place in an apartment complex where you have all these infected people turning into demons, attacking each other in this apartment complex, and no one can get out. You know, like they're sealed in there, like it's one of those hermetically sealed, like you can't open the windows up, central air, so they're all sealed in there while these things are attacking them. It might be good, it might not. I'm not saying this will be a good movie, but I am hopeful that maybe someone is just trying to make a normal horror movie with no messaging. You know,
well, nice. One can always hope. That alone might be worth it.
And I understand what Melissa is saying, and it may not be like the other Evil Dead remake is not going to be to everybody's taste either, but I at least thought for something that didn't have Ash in it and was supposedly trying to go back, at least the director's trying to, and it is gory as all get out, I'm going to warn you, okay? But it has like the people getting possessed by the demons and Evil Dead and all that, like in the original one, but
yeah.
But I check it out for yourself. Oh, and Melissa had mentioned earlier in the chat that she thinks she should do a rewatch of the prequel to Evil Dead that Sam Raimi made, the student film. I don't even know if that's available anywhere.
It'd be worth looking into, though. That's interesting.
I forgot what that was called, though. She might mention it in the chat. But we'll see. I'm hopeful just because I needed something good to talk about this week. This could be an example of me getting my hopes up, and then it turns out to be garbage. At least it's not,
more potentially good news. Okay. I mean, I don't know how you're feeling about it.
Yes.
But apparently Netflix is developing a live-action Conan the Barbarian TV series. A lot of people have been talking about it. Mr. H seems pretty positive about it.
We'll see. I like Mr. H. I do watch him sometimes.
I like what Al said about it in the Professor G group. Please don't suck.
I'm the same way because I want it to be good. Because remember, there was originally supposed to be a Conan series coming to Amazon. Yeah. And that was going to be done by the Game of Thrones director, Miguel Sopa. I'm getting his name right.
Well, you want to distance yourself from Game of Thrones as much as you possibly can.
But up until at least the final season, it had kind of a Conan-esque feel, the whole dark fantasy type thing going on. And it was going to have the Handmaid's Tale executive producer, Warren Littlefield. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, exactly.
And Colony co-creator Ryan Condal. I don't know anything about that. Okay, I don't know what Colony is. Has anyone here seen Colony?
I don't know. But if it's now moving over to Netflix, how much of that carries over, if any of it?
I think it's all gone. And I was surprised because what I had heard when Amazon passed on it, they were going with it. I think they changed management over there because the idea, I think the original people that were running the Amazon stream were saying, we want Game of Thrones. Okay, we want Game of Thrones series. So they greenlit the Lord of the Rings series that we have not seen take off the ground.
Yep.
And they also greenlit a Conan series. And from what I was reading about it, the one for Amazon is that they were actually going back to the short stories and they were going to be adapting elements from them. And I'm thinking this could be really neat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you hear what went wrong with it though, and where it fell apart?
No. What did you hear?
Basically, the power that be at Amazon got cold feet about the fact that Conan is part and parcel toxic masculinity, so they can't do that.
What?
Yep, that's exactly it. So they decided they were uninterested and they were going to pass. And so now if Netflix is picking it up, they've got to be going into it with eyes wide open, knowing what Conan is. Either you do it or you don't do it.
I miss the 80s anyway.
I know, right? That's what people are saying. It's like, look, you keep watering this stuff down because you want to sew in your excuse my phrasing, pansy ass messaging, and it's not selling. Nobody likes it, and you're going freaking broke. Keep doing the same thing over and over again, and it's not going to change. So start making the stuff that, I mean, if you're going to take an old property, do what worked. Get over yourselves.
I'm a big Conan short story fan, and I keep wondering why he's not public domain at this point. But do you think Netflix is going to think toxic masculinity as well?
I don't know.
I'm worried because Netflix is spotty sometimes. I mean, how was The Witcher received? I didn't, because I don't really follow The Witcher.
Must be pretty good. I heard they've got like 2 spin-offs coming off of it.
Netflix has a bad habit of always canceling series, though. You get to like season 3 and it's done, which could work for Conan if they just kept it episodic and just did the short stories and didn't try to weave this big unending thread, because they're really supposed to be standalone tales,
right?
But
which also is a great way to go into it. I mean, you don't have to keep it going if you're going to do a bunch of standalone, almost like an anthology type story.
Yeah, I mean, that's how he always treated it. There was only one novel that Robert E. Howard wrote about Conan, and that was when he was much older. And when the character was much older.
Right.
It's just I'm a big fan of Conan, and I keep saying to myself, aged boomer, you have the short stories, and they can't change. They can't wreck those.
Is Melissa Harris talking about that prequel?
Yeah, it's called Within the Woods, and apparently it's on the Tubi Internet Archive. So I'll definitely check it out myself.
Tubi, guys, Tubi's free. You're not losing anything by going and checking stuff out on Tubi. In fact, I got my Hellraiser 2 rewatch coming up in a couple weeks. It's available on Tubi. I mean, in theory, there's supposed to be commercials with it, but I oftentimes get through movies without even seeing a single commercial. And if you need a timestamp, we can always do that. So,
and yet, Brian Gavard says, and yet no one has ever been able to succinctly define toxic masculinity.
Well, this is why I find it so darn offensive. What's toxic about masculinity? Because I'll tell you what, any feminist that's saying it is saying it from a place of toxic femininity. There, I said it.
Probably. I mean, I maybe they're referring to the one short story where Conan, like Conan had a fighting companion that he ran into while fighting the Picts, and the Picts killed him, and then he's like, and the guy had a dog with him too, and the dog got killed in battle, and like he says, 20 Picts will die for this man and 5 for the dog. That's what he said at the end of the story.
Yeah. You know what? Yes. I mean, he's a barbarian. Okay. Yeah. He goes around without a shirt. There's a lot of naked women in these stories and the pictures and drawings that they do of it. Okay. That's just the way it is. It's R-rated. You don't like that, you stay away from it. Okay. But make it, because the people that do like it will pay for it.
The original Conan illustrator for the stories was a woman. Nobody ever talks about that, though.
That's right. She was. Oh my gosh.
People just,
was that Varga?
Not Varga. I have a book about him, though. I think it's I'm gonna butcher her name. I have the book on the shelf, but I can't reach it. I think it's Brundage, I think. Anyway, but I don't know. I'm hoping for the best, but fearing for the worst. Okay, that's where I'm with the Conan series. Um,
Yeah.
speaking of fearing for the worst, Bill and Ted 4 is not happening, or maybe that's
Yeah, I wanted to get this in, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Let me drop my link here. But yeah, so there had been a bunch of brouhaha going around, and a lot of news outlets jumped and ran with yep, the writer is working on a fourth installment of the Bill and Ted, and my immediate thought after having seen Bill and Ted 3 was like, where is there to go with this story? It's done. What is it? And then come to see this article where it says that Ed Solomon, the writer, said no, it's not happening. And my favorite quote from this article, by all means, I'm dropping the link. Go check out the article itself. Give them a click. It's worth it. Rumors of a fourth film were started by questionable blog We Got This Covered. I read that and I swear I laughed out loud. Nanette came and said, "What is it?" And I had to hold her off, say, "Wait," until I finished laughing and then shared it with her.
Oh.
I was like, this is awesome. Because what happens? You got these clickbait outlets like We Got This Covered that take it and run with it. Then everybody else picks it up and runs with it like it's news, and then popculture.com comes along and says, nope, it's not happening. We got it from the actual source, it and good. I mean, whether you liked Bill and Ted 3 or not, you have to admit that the story's over. I don't care if you think it was the best Bill and Ted since sliced bread. The movie, it was the third in a trilogy, and they end it, and it's done. It actually didn't need to have a third installment, but it did, and it's done. And I don't see it going anywhere unless you want to take the girls and put them in a Saturday morning style cartoon, with their silly, zany time travel stories. Totally could. I mean, Bill and Ted actually had a cartoon series back in the 80s. So, I'm not talking off, out of nowhere, but yeah, I just wanted to share that. And for once, instead of sharing a rumor, debunk a rumor for us.
I mean, yeah, it's just, I don't know. Did you see Bill and Ted 3?
I did. And I did not think it was as bad and woke as even Al was saying that it was.
Okay.
Did you see it?
I have not. I plan to watch it. I do know the big spoiler that Professor Geek screamed about on Facebook, though. So,
spoiler.
But maybe we don't want to spoil it in case anyone. So you didn't think it was so bad? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. No.
First two though.
I think that they interpreted some things through a lens of wanting to say it was woke or whatever, and I don't think it was as bad as I think I come down more on it didn't need to happen, and it wasn't so good that it justifies it having happened. But, and this is something that I haven't talked about, it's not like I felt strongly enough about it to do my own video on it or anything, but ultimately what I didn't like about it was something that nobody else I've seen comment on, because I'm weird and I'm probably one of the only people that cares about this, is, how I am with time travel, and if you even in a comedy setting, if you set up the rules of time travel, you kind of have to abide by it. We did rewatches of the first and second Bill and Ted movies, and what stands out to me is all the time travel in those films is very linear. They didn't change anything. They only ever set up internally consistent what do you call it? Predestination paradoxes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, it was done and it's over.
Yes.
This third one breaks that and introduces the idea of alternate realities.
Yeah.
And by doing that, now you've broken the convention of your own time travel model. and it makes it very difficult for me to justify integrating this story with the other two because of that.
We seem to go through periods of where we want to do the alternate timelines or we want to do linear time travel. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. And look, you got to do one or the other. Now, I think Trek has done an okay job of suggesting both because of dealing with different methods of time travel. And it's really the story that they're wanting to tell. And they keep their predestination paradox consistent because it's a closed loop, and while still acknowledging that there are also alternate universes out there and so forth.
Yeah.
But if your overall movie series is all about time travel, you know, the best Bill and Ted since sliced bread. Sound Engraver. Well, I don't know how to sing that Sound Engraver, but
I'm sure she could. But
I do feel like there ought to be there ought to be lyrics to that. If that's something you want to put together, I would be all for that. Yeah, I kind of realized as I said that I was mixing my metaphors, but who cares? I mean, I was basically leading up to Bill and Ted mixing theirs with their altered time travel, alternate, whatever. But yeah, so I will defend Bill and Ted on the whole, in quotes, wokeness, because I don't think it was as bad as people say it was. My problems are completely different, and it didn't need to happen. And I'm not necessarily recommending people spend the money. You're fine with just the two, and considering God gave rock and roll to you to be the song that aligned the universe, and it's done. You know,
that's true. That's what I always thought. At the end of that, I thought it was, and you can have movies that are just two, and then it's over. But I don't know. I'll probably check it out one of these days just to see, because I do like William Sadler as Death in it. So
I think on one live stream I shared the little Sadler story. I have family in Ohio, Mansfield, Ohio, which is the state penitentiary is there, where they filmed Shawshank Redemption.
Oh,
and you know, he played the guy who was in charge of that prison in that movie. The guy that played Death played the superintendent of the prison. And Mansfield, Ohio, every year has a little, you know, celebration of Shawshank Redemption. They do all year long. They do tours of that place.
Awesome.
They actually do a couple different tours. They do a historical tour. They do a ghost tour, because the place is supposed to be haunted. And they do a Shawshank Redemption filming locations tour of the place. You just pick the one.
Awesome thing to do while on vacation. In that
exactly.
Area. Yeah.
And it was closed when I was last there, so I didn't get a chance to see it. But they were supposed to have, you know, him back for as the star guest, you know, for their little celebration, and they couldn't because of the whole CV thing. They ended up canceling. But what he did was he recorded, you know, something for them to play in their digital online type thing, and saying, yeah, I'm sorry that I couldn't be there. I wouldn't have been able to make it anyway because I have another commitment. Now, the important thing that I didn't share that I'm going to share now, he does this in the makeup for Death. He did this while filming Bill and Ted. And he says, I'm, you know, he was completely, you know, himself. He wasn't playing Death. He was, I want to thank everyone in Mansfield, Ohio, and I'll be back in the future. This year I wouldn't have been able to make it anyway. I'm filming another movie. I can't tell you what it is. It's a secret, but you'll be finding out soon. And he does it completely straight face, you know, because obviously anyone looking at him knows what he's doing and what it is he's going to be in. But yeah, so that's the little story that, and I'm sure that piece of video is out there on the interweb somewhere. You can find it.
Cool.
But yeah, that's my little Bill and Ted Shawshank Redemption story.
Yeah, definitely. That does sound awesome. I mean, that's,
I love it when, you know, some of these celebrities are just so down to earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you see? There was a video of Keanu Reeves. I think he I don't know if the plane. He was on a bus with some people on a plane, and from a plane. I think he ended up giving them a tour because something got delayed or something,
Mhm.
and he was just relaxed. He gave them a tour of the area. I don't know the details, but he was like a little tour guide for them, impromptu tour guide for them, which was it was cool because he's a down to earth guy too. I think
Yeah.
I mean,
Kind
probably
of going back to what we were talking about, the stars that think who the heck they are, and then someone like Keanu Reeves who's just, I'm just playing a role. I'm nobody special,
everybody loves Keanu Reeves. They had a game conference for because he's in a video game coming out called Cyberpunk. It's going to be a big game coming out. It's by the guys at
Which
Witcher.
sounds interesting.
It's by the people that did the Witcher game, but there was a presentation that shows him in the game, right? And like he's like a character you talk to in the game, and then he came out on stage like at the conference, and he was there, and and some guy in the crowd yells, "You're beautiful!" And he says, "You're beautiful." It was awesome. And it's just everyone. It's like in a year where this was like in 2019, a year where everybody's down on everybody.
Yeah,
everybody loves Keanu Reeves. That's what I took.
Well, I've said this so much. A little humility goes a long way. People have lost that. There, I've touted the YouTube channel Charisma on Command many times. I recommend people check it out.
Okay.
People need to learn how to interact with other people. Sometimes you just need to be reminded of those basic, simple things that our parents probably tried to teach us, and humility, that's one of them. A little bit of self-deprecating, a little bit of keeping, don't think who the heck you are. Okay. Let other people be the ones that build you up,
Mm-hmm.
and instead spend your time building up other people. I mean, Charisma on Command actually has whole videos that point out people like Keanu Reeves and some of the others that are exactly like that. They're, what's his name? Chris Pratt is another one that people always look to. You can try to cancel him all you want, but he is just too darn popular. And the reason he's so popular is because every time you see him, he's building up his coworkers and other people, and he's never talking about himself. It's kind of hard to beat up on somebody who's building up other people.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Pratt's another one of these. Yeah, I mean, he is grateful for what he has too. I always get that from him when he talks about his career and whatnot. He doesn't take it for granted, I think.
And again, you look at these actors, they all, the ones that are doing well are the ones who know I may not have another role. And I just say the wrong thing once and my career is over. So that's a humbling thing right there, but I'll tell you, there's too many of them that think who the heck they are. And I'm going to be rich forever because I'm rich now. I mean, that goes for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this, I get down in Hollywood sometimes, but then I say a movie like Jurassic World, and I loved Jurassic World, and I didn't expect to. Do you understand? I don't know if you liked it or not, but I know what I liked about it is that it was Jurassic Park without any sentimentality from Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it because I like Pratt.
Yeah, and I thought he was stole the show in that.
Yeah,
too.
I kind of like the redhead in that.
What's his name's daughter? Ron
I
Howard's
didn't know she.
daughter.
Well, of course she's somebody's daughter.
Bryce Dallas Howard. Ron Howard's daughter.
Who's? Oh, she's Ron Howard's daughter.
Yes.
That's weird now.
She had kind of a stalled career for a while because she was in that M. Night Shyamalan movie, I think, The Village, and she kept showing up in things. But then she was in the Spider-Man 3 as Gwen Stacy. But then she had kind of she would be in the big movies that then didn't end up being big, even though the previous ones were big.
Exactly.
She was in Jurassic World, so I think that was her big kind of a big break for her recently.
Yeah, I mean, it was an okay movie. Jurassic Park, I enjoyed the original. I enjoyed so much.
Yeah.
And you put that together with the second one, and those two movies together kind of cover a lot of what was in the original book. I don't think any adaptations of Michael Crichton's work ever really do the books justice. After you get past that, it's like, okay, now you're just making popcorn movies to give us, fight the dinosaur.
Oh, it was a popcorn movie. I'm not denying that. I'm saying that it was But what I found funny about the movie was that all, except for Chris Pratt and it, like, and maybe the two boys or something, like everyone
Yeah.
else was making colossally stupid
Yeah.
decisions throughout that entire movie.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, like even the guy that ran the park, the guy that flew the helicopter, and then
Yeah.
like I think it crashes into the pterodactyl thing, and all the pterodactyls get loose and start attacking the people. And then you have the one guy who runs to get his beer, and I'm thinking, I know why he's running to grab the beer, even though they're all being attacked with pterodactyls. The beers in that park are $30.
Right?
That's okay.
Exactly.
I think the whole thing was a knock on Disney World. Okay,
I'm sure it was. It absolutely was. And you can't see a movie like that and not then immediately look forward to what the critical drinker is going to say about it, because it just lends itself to him ripping it apart.
Oh, did you see his Star Trek recently? Star Trek Beyond?
He did one just recently?
For Star Trek Beyond, the third of the Abrams one.
I guess I haven't. I'll have to
Like in
check
the last
it out.
week or so. Check it out after the stream. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll probably really love that. But you can't take a movie like Jurassic World 2 seriously.
No.
And so it's kind of fine when it gets lampooned that way.
I understand. Yeah.
But Chris Pratt, his role in it was pretty admirable. I mean, you're right. He is the character that kind of keeps it together and makes fairly intelligent decisions in a bizarre, stupid, ridiculous situation, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's what I liked about it. And maybe he should be the one playing Indiana Jones, since I don't think we're going to be getting Harrison Ford back anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't have my notes or source.
I have a couple written. It's just that they're thinking, this is a follow up to what we were talking about last week. They're thinking this thing is going to be dead in the water. That's what that's what's hanging around it.
Everything I'm seeing is pointing back to exactly the same, excuse the term, toxic environment that plagued Star Wars. And I think that the powers that be at Disney are going, no, we are not going to destroy another franchise with Kennedy. We will drag our asses until she's gone, and then we'll develop it.
Just recast and set it back in the 40s. I think you're right. Or in the 30s, or even the 40s, because he did stuff in the 40s too, didn't he? So I'm just
well.
Oh, by the way, apparently Shia LaBeouf is reportedly making a push to be in the film, so it will rejolt his career.
I don't really have a problem. I don't have any strong feelings about him one way or the other.
Okay,
I honestly, that last movie that introduces him was a crap movie. Really? That Crystal Skull. I think we talked about this. It was nice to see what's her name?
Karen Allen. Yeah,
Karen Allen come back and all that stuff. But you know, they really did nuke the fridge in that movie. And okay, great. He's got a kid. Whoop-de-doo. They've kind of failed to do the handoff. They
didn't do it. Yeah.
And where would it go anyway? I don't see where this story goes with his son going forward. I do want to see more Indiana Jones taking place in the 30s and 40s. I don't want to see Indiana Jones in the 50s, and I definitely don't want to see his kid in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, I'm thinking a new actor maybe, and maybe Chris Pratt would be the right actor. Yeah,
I would be fine with that. And there's really, I'll be honest with you, we don't need Harrison Ford for it anymore.
No, and they're thinking he was going to be like 79 or 80 by the time this thing gets into production. They're thinking, no, I think that's just getting too old to play Indiana Jones.
I would say at this point, slap an eye patch on him, have him do the bookend thing where he tells a story, you know, and you see what I'm getting at?
That's a good idea. Like kind of like with when they did, I didn't care so much for the Hobbit movies, but when they had the older Ian Holm, was it?
Yep, who did Bilbo.
And they did the flashback to the younger Bilbo, so that they could do that with they could do that with
I would be fine with that. And you slap an eye patch on him.
Perfect.
Don't explain it. Don't give me a flashback to how he lost his eye. I don't give a damn.
You know, it'd be awesome. They could do a bookend story, right? Where like Oh, that would be a great idea. They could do a bookend story where, like, he has a little adventure as an old man, and it ties back to something that goes back to his past, and
Yeah,
then maybe that ends kind of like they did on the old TV show. Actually, remember
that's
they would have
exactly my
he'd have
point.
his little thing. That
And
would be
that's why
awesome.
I'm suggesting the eye patch,
Yes,
because the old man had an eye patch,
exactly.
and you have no idea how that happened or why. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to know, because I don't want to find out it was an alien cat that scratched him.
No,
Okay.
and there, yes, no. I always figured it was like Nick Fury was on some dangerous mission and some Hydra guy got him. Or no, it was just something stupid. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
this is kind of sad news. This is our last topic. We don't spend too much time on it. Well, apparently this is coming out. Cineworld could close all Regal cinemas UK in the UK and the United States because of the No Time to Die delay, the Bond movie that was supposed to come out, because that got delayed till April 2nd, 2021. They're thinking just shut them down for a while until the studios decide they're going to start releasing stuff again.
Well, I think this is a bigger Hollywood problem than just this. And we've been talking about this on this show, haven't we? Where Hollywood has been making bad decisions, so they haven't been doing well to begin with. Then the beer bug hits, and it causes everyone to stay home. So then they try their stupidity with releasing stuff on streaming services for ridiculous amounts of money that nobody's going to pay for, and they've pretty much effed themselves. So until people can start getting out and going to the theaters, and Hollywood starts putting out movies people want to go see, yeah, this is what's happening. So theaters are going to close. I said it when the whole Croup thing happened. You're killing our economy. That's not helping anybody. And this is the result. So now more people are out of work. The economy overall becomes even more depressed. Hollywood is hurting even more. So now you have to go back. It ripples back to everything we've talked about tonight. Start hiring no names because we can't afford the big stars.
Yep.
Start doing stories, that are anthology stories that are not such a big investment, that don't cost as much. And that's where you're at. But I'll tell you what, again, start putting out quality films and they will come.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, Tenet, I don't know if that was a quality film. That did badly, though, but I don't know if that was because people were just scared of still going to the theaters, or maybe it's not as hyped as we thought it was. I don't know.
Well, I got to admit, even with the talk we've done, I have no clue what the movie was about. I kept hearing about it, but I'm sorry. Christopher Nolan's name is not enough reason for me to go see anything.
Right.
I think it had something to do with time travel. Maybe someone suggested that to me.
Maybe people were unclear what it was about too, because
I had no idea.
I thought it was going to be like a Mission Impossible, like espionage type movie. That's what I had the impression.
But I'll tell you what's going to get me back to the theater. Absolutely, I am going to be going to the theater as soon as they re-release Alita Battle Angel.
Yes, Alita Army. They said, and I may try to get out to see that too, because we want a sequel, and Disney, pay attention to box office receipts. This may be a way to get back in people's good graces. Greenlight an Alita sequel, maybe, hopefully, maybe not. But
I was so glad to see that. The Alita Army said we want it re-released, and sure enough, within hours of them tweeting it out, the cinemas are going, "Yep, we're all for it. We'll work on it." And so I am fired up, because what does that do? That gives us that much more revenue for the movie, which makes it that much more likely we may get a sequel. I mean, there is a loyal fan base, and now is the time to strike. Hollywood cannot leave money on the table. They can't afford to. This is how we're going to get a sequel to Alita. So you better believe Netter and I are going to be back in the theater to see that movie, even though I've got it on my shelf, even though I've seen it 3 times already in the theater.
See it again.
Absolutely. I'm all for it.
If you want a sequel, try and go see that again. Definitely. I guess we're running out of time, but I probably don't have time to talk about Jamie Foxx possibly coming back as Electro in a third.
Yeah, I will drop that too. So, and since then, I've heard even more. Apparently, Kirsten Dunst is in talk to come back.
Wow.
The kid who played Harry Osborn in the
Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Amazing Spider-Man movies is in talk. But here's my prediction. Okay, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
They're going with the whole Into the Spider-Verse thing. To let you know that there's multiple universes out there. So all of these previous Spider-Man movies all exist in an alternate universe. Lame, absolutely lame. It was lame when CW did it with their Crisis thing. It's going to be lame with the Flashpoint. All it is going to be cameos and member berries of better films.
That's a pity, because what I thought it was is that if you have an actor that you liked playing the villain, even though you're in a new Spider-Man universe, just recast the same actor again. You could have what's his name come back as Dr. Ock.
Doc Octopus.
Yeah, Dr. Octopus. I had his name down here.
I forget the actor's name.
Alfred Molina. Alfred Molina. Have him come back, and my point is, you don't always have to recast, because they had J. Jonah Jameson do a cameo in the post-credit sequence, and I thought, if an actor works, why always have to recast, even though it was in a different series? Just, you know what I'm saying? But now it does sound like that's what they're trying for. That's to be continued. Okay, so
exactly.
All right. So do we want to mention what's coming up tomorrow? I believe you have a rewatch, correct?
Yes, I do.
Wait, first is tonight. We watches tonight on Mr. Matchstick's channel.
Yep. Let me grab that really quick. So literally, as soon as we finish up here, if you're interested, if it's your kind of thing, go on over and check out Ghost Stories on Mr. Matchstick's channel. I will drop the link.
Apparently a very famous dub, or infamous, but we'll find out. But I will be joining
on the show, right?
I will be joining him. So yes, so for tonight, because I figure start of my vacation, I don't have to work getting up early tomorrow.
Yep, that's in 5 minutes, though. We do have to wrap this up pretty quick.
Yeah. So tomorrow night. So
tomorrow night over on my channel, I haven't got the link up yet, but I will give you the link to my channel. I am doing the rewatch of David Lynch's Dune with Big Al and the Professor, kind of, to follow up on his recent book study of Dune. This is the second week we have Sound Engraver on sabbatical, so I'm just filling the spot because it's available, keeping the seat warm for her. But I know that Sound Engraver, I just dropped her link. Please like and subscribe. She will be dropping a video tomorrow about the music of the classic He-Man. I'm telling you, that tune has been going through my head for weeks now. I mean, that is some great music. So hear what she has to say about that. So that's Monday night. Tuesday night over on the Professor's channel, we have a rewatch of the original Dracula. And I actually don't remember who all's there. It's me and Al and the Professor. Are you going to be there?
No, not this week. Not this week. I'm taking a break this week, but
probably Netter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then on Wednesday night, Daniel Heron's channel, Soundtracks with Birdman. Do you know what's happening?
He is going to be doing a soundtrack review with Big Al this week, because I'm on vacation, but he's going to be doing Big Al. I mean, he's going to be having Big Al on the show, and they're going to be doing the a soundtrack review of Coppola's Dracula movie, Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula movie.
Oh, that beautiful haunting song by Annie Lennox. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a neat little stream for you to check out. Also, I believe Green Lion Girl's also on that night with her gaming stream, right?
Yes, she is. She's still doing Until Dawn. Let me tell you something. That's a creep. That would make a great movie. I'd love to see it. But I'm loving Green Lion Girl's stream. Very interactive. When you get to a point in the game where there's a choice to be made, she asks the stream to contribute, and you feel like it's an interactive game you guys are all playing.
I should do that sometime, and we'll do a Choose Your Own Adventure book live stream. I'm kidding.
That would be kind of fun, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
And then I know if Al's in the stream still, you can let us know. Fan Man, I know he's got his cafe on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yep. Second Cup Cafe. Mm-hmm.
And then Friday night, he is doing the Hammer Dracula film. if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
That's
he's going to be doing it, but it's not the Horror of Dracula. I believe it's Dracula, Prince of Darkness, because they already did Horror of Dracula.
Gotcha.
That's actually my favorite of the Hammer Draculas, Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
I actually have them all on DVD.
Oh yeah, they're awesome. Yeah.
And
what about Thursday?
I was going to say we kind of gloss over Thursday because Fan Man kind of has several things throughout the week.
Right.
So back to Professor's channel, he is starting a new book study on Thursday. It is the Halloween Tree, Ray Bradbury, I believe.
Okay, cool.
And of course, all these things that I'm dropping, make sure that you are in the Professor Geek group, Facebook group. I always update the links and the schedules so that you know what's coming. Like on Saturday, we're back to Big Al's channel where we will be watching. It is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which is another movie that brings back Boris Karloff as Dracula.
That's a funny movie, but it's also just a great monster mash. Basically, you see all the great, and it was not Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi as Dracula.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Bela Lugosi.
Yeah. But definitely check that out. And I know they'll probably show that on TCM at some point this month too. If you don't have access to it, I would definitely set your timer for that if anyone still gets cable, which they probably don't. Anyway, but okay. But anything else to add?
Nope. I think that covers it all. I think we got it all in.
All right, everyone. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to be updated. And we appreciate you tuning in, or if you're tuning in posthumously.
After the stream.
And here we go. Ghost stories. Boys and girls, get on the Weeb Watch after this. Link to the series will be provided. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to end the broadcast, and everybody have a good weekend. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to hit the bell. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.